Well, good morning, everyone. I grew up in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. I was the third of four boys, and we grew up in a small little farmhouse. And as you can probably appreciate, there wasn't a whole lot of privacy for my parents. Being the third of four boys, I was always lost in the mix. You're always wondering what your parents are talking about, what they're saying about you, what they're saying about your brothers. You're always getting into trouble. At the end of the day, they needed to retreat to some place for privacy, and their retreat was the bathroom on the first floor. So my brothers and I, in our infinite wisdom, would gather around that door, and we would stick our ear next to the carpet, next to the linoleum, and we'd attempt to hear what Mom and Dad were talking about at the end of the day. And after a couple of times, they got wise to it. They jerked the door open and we'd tumble in. And I think my parents finally realized that nothing was sacred, nothing was hidden from us, so you might as well talk about it around the kitchen table. Why do I lead with that little story? We've talked in the past at these events or in your offices as the need to be cognizant and aware that what you are saying to other agents, what you are saying to fellow agents, what you are saying to clients can and will be used against you, whether it's someone claiming that you threw an inspector or another agent under the bus and spoke ill of them, whether it's something that you should or should not have said in an email that's then recorded for posterity. So we've talked in the past about the need to be aware that someone is always listening, or view that communications if someone is always listening. But we're entering an age in which not only is it potentiality for ethics claims, potential legal claims, but now hackers and fraudsters. 2016, in the real estate industry, $9 million was re-diverted in wire fraud. Managers, keep your hands up. You know the answer to this. How much do you think was rewired, misdirected in 2017? Twice the amount? You'll say that? Ruth? I'm not going to say Ruth. I don't know the percentage. I'm going to speculate. Mr. My colleague can do it, and he'll have it figured out by the time he comes up here at the end. But $969 million was miswired, rewired in 2017. And if you Google these stories, there was just a news story that happened on local Chicagoland TV station a couple of weeks ago. You might think, this impacts Chicago. This impacts the East Coast. This impacts the West Coast. This impacts Dallas. This doesn't impact Bourbonnais. This doesn't impact Northwest Indiana. This doesn't impact Crown Point. Ladies and gentlemen, it is very real. It is right here in our backyard. So for the agents that are not here, that you see when you go back to your offices today, that you might see in the next several weeks, please share with them the necessity of taking action on a couple of points that we are going to share with you today, a few of the stories. And to further enhance how real this is, I'm going to request that Kathy Schultz, Manager of Community Title, come up and share with you just a couple of stories that they've recently encountered to really drive this matter home.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I know, sometimes I feel like I'm, a broken record on the subject, but unfortunately, everything changes, So when we started talking a couple years ago about the wire fraud, it wasn't as rampant. So I don't think it was on the top of everyone's minds. A case happened here and a case happened there. The first one that happened, money was diverted, and to my knowledge, around $27,000 was not recouped. Then, right here with our title company, about a year and a half ago, a buyer that was buying an auction property was not represented by one of our agents, but they did receive our wire instructions via their email, and that was manipulated. And he sent his money out. He went to BMO Harris. He had the wire instructions in his hands. He went to that wire department and said, can you please wire this money to Community Title Company? And the address to the bank the bank ABA number and the account number itself was not ours. So the form was like our form, but he manipulated the information in the middle. He wired out $86,000, and the next day he came to closing, and at closing, we asked, oh, did you send your money? He said, I did yesterday. And we said, uh-oh. So we double checked with our bank, and the money was not there. We asked him and urged him just to get up right then and there and go to his bank and see what he can do. The bank's been working on it and working on it. I knew for about a year in communication that the bank was working on it, but from what I have heard through stories with the FBI and those kind of things, that money's gone. So Ron and I were at a American Land Title meeting last week, and they invited all the largest agents in the country to this meeting. So we participated, and one of the topics was wire fraud, and even though I think I've heard it, and I don't know if I can learn anything new from it, we shared stories on, what we were getting. I get emails trying to redirect seller funds. He won't do it. So even if your seller, truly does decide, if he leaves with a check, I cannot take his check back and wire the funds. I can't do it. Phone call, email. I don't know someone's voice. I cannot do it. I cannot divert those funds because whether or not I'm truly talking to that seller or not, I don't know. Besides the fact that on a check, when a check is issued, you have the capability of photocopying or scanning that check with your phone and depositing that check. So that check actually has to have a stop payment placed, and we can reissue in 48 hours. So just so you know, we're not being mean, but we have to be cautious in those manners. But while we were in that meeting, I received a phone call from my office, and an agent here had been communicating with their buyer in their email. No one gave them a copy of the wire instructions. So they did not know what our wire instructions looked like whatsoever. However, the agent laid out everything that hacker needed to create some wire instructions. They had a purchase agreement in the email, so they knew the sales price. In all of the communications, they watched the inspection time, I'm sure, go by. They watched everything, but this was a cash deal. So there was no loan to be had or anything like that. And it was in the realm of somewhere, I don't know if it was $386,000, it was between $386,000 and $400,000 cash deal. So the hacker hacks into the client's email, from what I can see, what I think, sat there late at night, then created an email address that resembled our agent. So instead of my true address, for instance, being kathy@macaulay.com, they created like Kathy.Schultz or something, Kathy.S, Macaulay at AOL.com. When the client looks at that, the bold, they still put that in there as my name. So it looks like that email came from me. They're not looking at the actual address to know, and who truly does know whether or not there's a dot in there, whether or not it had, K.Schultz or who knows. They're not looking at that. They don't see that every single day to realize. So they think they're talking to their agent. So the hacker sends wire instructions and says, here's wire instructions attached. Can you please let me know when you've wired the funds? Buyer opens up that email, clicks on the attachment. There it says, Community Title Company in Hong Kong. And as much as that's a red flag, the consumer said, well, that's really funny. I'm closing in Crown Point, Indiana, and you want me to wire to Hong Kong? And the hacker said, yes, and can you please let us know, when you wire the money? So she printed out those wire instructions, and I'm going to tell you, she was not elderly. It's not like, she had some kind of incapacity or anything like that. This was a young woman, and she still went to the bank with those wire instructions to Hong Kong. Now, we were so lucky that she banked with a local bank that had been used to wiring to community title. And with that, they stopped the wire and said, look, we know community title does not have a bank in Hong Kong. We wire them all the time. We know they're banking right here locally. So they stopped that wire. But she still took it to the bank. Wow. I don't know, besides, in some way you have to scare the client. You have to tell them what a threat this is. That these hackers are laying in wait. They don't know who they're talking to. That they need to call and verify. Verify with you, verify with us. Always call, whether or not it's our title company, whether it's Fidelity or Meridian or anybody else that you're dealing with. Whether or not you're going over, if they're taking the wire instructions and going to another, state and have money wired. They need to have the bank call us, call somebody they know. Not just even a phone number that may be on those wire instructions, because that phone number may be duped. I don't know that, it might be ours, it may not be. So in some way, we have to get to the point of telling the clients that our industry is a target. We are just a target for this. And they're not, hacking into, looking for car loans or looking for all these other things. They're after the real estate and they're looking for the cash transactions. They can see the purchase agreement, so they're looking to make sure that, in different areas, what is the down payment? Is it going to be a conventional loan where, they may be putting 10 or 20% down? So they can see that people are going to end up wiring the funds. We're going to urge you that if your client, in Indiana, the good funds law is capped at $10,000. So anybody using funds to close up to $10,000 can bring a cashier check. So urge your client not to wire if it's under $10,000. In Illinois, it's $50,000. So you have a much bigger range there to use the cashier check is $50,000. So anything over 10, though, here has to be wired. And if they can confirm with you, we're going to, as a title company, start not using our email for wire instructions at all. Not encrypted, not in any way. We're going to call the client and let them know that we're going to mail them, hard mail, the wire instructions, and that they will not receive any other instructions from us whatsoever through their email. This is the only way I guess we can do this as a uniform. They're welcome to pick them up. We can have them in the offices if they so need. But I know you're dealing with clients that may be out of state or those kind of things too. But this is the one way we can for sure go through everybody and get the borrower's address where they are currently and mail them out. In 2 days they'll have them, but they talk to us, they know it's coming, and they know that this is legitimate. And anything they get, whether or not a lender sends it to them, because that's out of my control. I do understand some lenders think they're being helpful and they forward our wire instructions on to their client. When they do, they don't always encrypt those either. So they're sending it as a generic attachment too. So I not only, I'm trying to protect our wire instructions from being altered, but if we do this at the beginning of the transaction, and when we get our title order, and we let them know you're going to be closing with community title, we know that your agent is Cheryl, and Cheryl's talked to us, so I would want you to make sure though you confirm with Cheryl before you go wire the funds, so that you know where you're wiring them. Now we can't control it when you have a closing in another title company, when you have that buyer, but I would ask maybe the title company, can they hard mail wire instructions? How can they securely get them to your client? I know some title companies don't even believe in having to encrypt them anymore. And I guess they think that just because their routing number and their account number is out there, because we write so many checks, I think though it's just a security that we have to afford in some way, that somebody can't manipulate them as it is. I mean, now we're just giving it to them if we do that. So, I don't mean to really scare you, but if you can somehow relate this to your clients, Brenda.
Can I just make a suggestion, and maybe you've already thought of this? Could you somehow seal that only your title company puts on that letter. So in case these people start figuring out, hey, let's mail them wire instructions.
Well, I'm sure, well, it will have our letterhead on there. I don't know, I suppose we can put, you know, some sort of original signature on them.
Just a stamp.
You know what I mean?
maybe like stamped something.
We'll figure something out that, at least, you know, but as long as we keep this out of the email, because that's where that hacker's sitting, you know, and he's gonna get to the other part to, you know, help them, but I don't know how long they sit and lie in wait. They say that, you know, this is easier than robbing a bank, you know, the payout is so much higher. There's no risk for them, they can't get caught, you know, they're in different countries. By the time the FBI catches up to them, those wires have been in like 8 different accounts. And some of the people along the way, they're not even, they know they're getting money, but from some of the stories that we've heard from the FBI, you know, the hacker isn't just paying everybody along the way to flush this money until it gets out of the country. Some of these schemes are, you know, boyfriend-girlfriend schemes and internet relationship schemes, and I'm gonna send you some money. You know, they start a relationship online for a year, and they just keep this going. And so they get this relationship going, they send the female, you know, some money and say, oh, well, you know, my sister, when she moves here, I want you to go ahead and wire it to her. So as soon as I get it to you, you will send it to her. They don't know what they're doing. But they have no idea they're in the middle of a wire fraud scheme. So it's just too hard to get back. They say that now you have to be within the bank within 2 hours. Otherwise, that money's gone. So, any suggestions though, call me, I'll be happy to help.
Just, you know, educating our clients, I think, is the biggest portion with, you know, wire fraud. It is so easy to call the bank and verify their ABA or their routing number to educate your client. I call people's bank right now and say, what's your routing number? I can verify that the information that I have matches the bank that I'm sending that to. So in the instance of the Hong Kong, you know, I would verify with people that that's where it's supposed to go. It just takes a minute to make that phone call. The bank's going to give your client that information so they can verify.
Sure.
Kathy, will you let us as agents know, I mean, you're gonna snail mail the instructions to the client, but then how will we?
We're gonna call you because right now we're gonna call you to get their phone numbers and addresses.
Okay, all right, that's kind of where I was going, so that you
So,
know that
so
it's
that
coming,
you, right,
so that we
absolutely.
know.
So we're gonna contact you first and before we mail them, so that yes, if they do get that letter, they can confirm with you.
Okay, that's what I. Thank you.
Right now, it's the safest bet we got.
No?
When are you gonna start that, Kathy? Mailing?
Soon. So I think the key takeaway that we are seeing, that we are studying, that we have been analyzing is this is a constantly evolving game. When we adapt, they adapt. When they adapt, we adapt. So this is going to be constantly changing, moving forward. It may be that suddenly they are mailing out as well. We're in contact with national groups that underwrite pretending conferences to see what folks are doing all across the nation. There is no silver bullet. I think that the key takeaway that I want everyone here to lead with is, at the end of the day, that first line of defense is going to be you educating your clients. As Kathy just indicated, we were on a teleconference with the head of Secret Service out of Chicago yesterday afternoon, and folks are fond of saying, well, you have 24 hours after that wire goes up to get it back. So that's a lie. You give maybe 1 to 2 hours, if that, if you can quickly get to the bank and try to stop it. So what are some key efficient ways that you can be that gatekeeper? Okay, what these folks are doing is they're either sending out phishing emails into your email in an effort to try to get inside. Once they are inside and have access, and you don't change your passwords and your antivirus doesn't pick it up, they are watching for key transactions. They're watching for the big cash deals that Kathy mentioned. They're watching for the big down payments. They're seeing who's all involved in the transaction. And then what they're doing is they are creating fictitious emails. Now, if you open up your cell phones, and allow that here in public speech, and fire up your emails here. Go ahead, do it. Grab your cell phones and take a look at your emails. Okay? When you open up your emails, you are going to see you've got an email from Nathan Biss, you've got an email from Ron McCauley, you've got an email from Tracy, and it's going to be in parents or not for parents, and you're not going to see what the actual email address is. Okay? We are constantly looking at hundreds of emails each day, which we don't actually then click down and see who is sending that email. These folks are so good and so sophisticated that even though it's going to be nvis.esq.xxx@yahoo.com, it's going to show up in your email inbox as if it's Nathan Biss, General Counsel. Okay? So the first thing that you need to do is talk to your folks. So be alert. When you get an email from me, your agent, it is going to say ruth.such-and-such@macaulay.com or whatever it might be. The other thing we need to realize is that these folks are so smart. They're observing MLS. They're observing Facebook. They're seeing Bob Smith is going to be close to selling his house. They're going to be then going into the dark web. They're going to be seeing, hey, does Bob Smith have some personal information that I can buy? Oh, look. I can buy this for $30 access into his email account. They infiltrate into the account, and suddenly they're misdirecting and redirecting and re-forwarding emails so that you never even know. If they access your email, they could be doing the same thing. They could be setting up a forwarding. Anytime an email comes in from Ruth or myself, they never see it, automatically goes to their personal account. So what's the best way at the forefront? Monica's going to show us here in a bit. You can throw up the drawbridge. That was cool, by the way, that helps with the drawbridge. I want that for my own kids. It's called a two-step verification system. If you are utilizing, and you should be utilizing the Macaulay email address for free, we have it set up as a two-step verification system. Currently, there's only 18.75% of our agents that are utilizing this. At the end of the day, you don't keep your house open at night when you go to bed. You don't keep your vehicle open when you park at Macy's, when you park at Target, wherever you're going, Menards. Why would you keep your email system? I'll be the first to take the blame. It wasn't until Steve, 2 weeks ago, came into my office and said, Biss, what are you doing? It's easy. I said, really, I can do it? He said, even you can do it. It took me 3 minutes to do it. So please set up a two-step verification system that is going to change your password each month, and it is a easy, key way to keep the hackers out of the highway of information that is running through your email scheme. Now, there's going to be a note coming out this afternoon tomorrow to all the agents requesting this. If it's not done by August 1st, there's going to be some further things that go on. We'll probably shut down your email address until it's actually done. If you are not utilizing the Macaulay system, please reach out to myself as well as Steve or Monica, unless something goes out on that as well, to ensure that whatever system you are utilizing does have this two-step system set up. It is essential that we have this. It is one of the best ways. It is the #1 way across the nation that they say to keep the hackers out of your system. Number 2, please utilize the wire fraud disclosure sheet that we're now mandating that is in SkySlope. Use that as an opportunity and share with the folks a story of what has happened to someone else. We all know it's a story that resonates with somebody. So leave that story with them, scare the bejeebers out of them, and as you get closer to closing, remind them again and again and again to be careful. If you are using your own personal laptop, using a business laptop from home, you're not using one of the ones in the office, please make sure that you have antivirus, some sort of antivirus software, anti-phishing, you name it, set up. If you need help with that, we can put you in contact with the right folks to get that set up. In addition, be cautious. Be cautious, be cautious. I cannot stress it enough. So please, in the Legal Journal for July, I've thrown out 10 steps. Look at numbers 9 and numbers 10. And that's to advise your clients. Number 10 is to advise your clients again. So moving forward, as we mentioned, this is going to be evolving. Their schemas are constantly changing. We are going to be proactive. We're going to be ensuring that we have the necessary insurance, etc., to do backups on this. But the best way to avoid it is you that are in the trenches to make sure that your clients know. It's not just knuckleheads that are just opening up emails and saying, I'm going to go to the bank and wire Hong Kong. These are sophisticated folks. These are business owners of large businesses in the area that were involved in that particular transaction. They're highly sophisticated. And it's easy in the hurriedness of life to be duped. So please, please, please be careful. Are there any questions before we turn it over to Monica to show us how to get set up for two-step?
Hey, Andy, can we get a document? I mean, I know we have the anti-fraud that they have to sign. People sign those, they never really bother to read them, unfortunately. That we could give them, and maybe give them more than one time during the whole process.
So Section T of the Indiana purchase agreement, and I just put it in, I don't know what number or letter it is in the Illinois purchase agreement, is now in bold and talks about wire fraud, so it's there.
Okay.
Number 2, you should have it at the bottom of your email transmissions. Number 3, we have it in the new wire fraud, and that's signed at the forefront. We'll have to think through on our end whether or not we create another one. We don't want to drown in forms. Another thought is maybe attaching to that form maybe an updated story, perhaps that just gets spit out when you're taking the client through that says, hey, look, Susie Smith in Colorado lost 400 G's because they weren't paying attention. But we're thinking through on our end what's a more commonsensical way, but the best way is when you get to that form, take the 5 minutes, develop the spiel that it's going to take. Questions? Yeah, Paul.
This wire fraud, do you think that the states, the legislators are going to look at maybe get rid of that limit and make it even higher so there's more cashier's checks?
So I made a note of that. It's
Yeah.
too low, $10,000.
Yeah.
It's way too low.
And
companies rallying.
there were efforts, what was it, a year ago, where Indiana was thinking of switching back over to just cashier's checks. And
Yeah,
that
there were
crashed
some
and
bank
burned.
lobbyists, bank lobbyists wanted to go back to cashier checks and raise that good funds limit. Well, what happened here was that a bank has an available balance when you deposit a check, and they have a cleared balance. So they have the balance, you can see your balance, once you deposit a check, you have a balance. But if you call and say what's available, that's a different balance, because that check hasn't cleared yet. So until that check clears, so what they came up with was if we go to the cashier checks, you're gonna dry close. You're not gonna fund at the table anymore. Because they won't let the title companies take on the responsibility of the float until those cashier checks clear.
I told this to Kathy yesterday. She said, well, why can't the banks do more? My comment to her was, well, it's simple. At the end of the day, they don't have any liability. Somebody comes and tells them what to do, and they do it. And the banking lobby is frankly just slightly bigger than the title lobby is going to be, or the real estate lobby. So let's be mindful of that. Nothing that we can do about it. There are a lot of things that we can do commonsensical along the way, advising our clients and endearing themselves to us, to the company, to show how much we care about them, their transaction, and their finances. So thank you all for your attention, and we appreciate you engaging in the prophylactic measures that we talked about. And I'm going to turn the microphone over to Monica to show us how to do it.